Hey everyone, this is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Today we are going to take a look at the sun's upcoming square to Neptune, which is now in the 3-degree engagement range as of today, Monday, and is going to be coming through as the week progresses and then trailing off into the weekend. So it's about a full week of sun square Neptune energy that we should be familiarizing ourselves with. So today we're going to do a top 10 things to watch for. Before we do that, I want to say I'm so happy to have spent time with everybody who joined the new classes over the weekend. We had a great, attendance and a good start to a new section of students. You're not too late to sign up. If you want to learn more about the programs that just started, visit my website, nightlightastrology.com. You can go to the courses tab. The first year program started yesterday on Sunday. Horary started yesterday on Sunday. Year 2 started on Saturday, all of which you can still sign up for. If you have any questions about the programs that just started, not too late. You can email us info@nightlightastrology.com. It was great to meet a bunch of you and start this new program. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe, share your comments, click on the notification bell for updates. Transcripts of my daily talks can always be found on my website, nightlightastrology.com. Let's take a look at the real-time clock today. And we're going to pull it up in order to get a read on this transit from the sun to Neptune. So here we go. And the first thing that I want you to notice is, by the way, you have Mercury also entering Gemini and picking up some dignity this week. We may end up spending a little bit of time talking about that, especially since Mercury is going to go back through the degrees of its that it went retrograde in earlier, and also back into a sextile with Jupiter. That should be a pretty dynamic transit. Anyway, here you can see that the Sun and Neptune are together and forming an aspect with each other. The Sun to Neptune, this is exact on Thursday, June 16th. The 3-degree engagement range begins today, Monday, and stretches out until Thursday when it perfects. And then you get about 3 days afterwards, so it'll be trailing off until Sunday. So you could broadly say that this is about a full week of the Sun's square to Neptune. As a result of that, we want to get a real feel for what Sun-Neptune transits are likely to produce. It's interesting that the Sun is also trining Saturn in the mix. I believe that sometimes there's a potential to get sort of overloaded mentally or emotionally with Neptune transits and to lose the ability to see the difference between what's real and what's not. This is a Sun that's in an air sign with a trine to Saturn in an air sign. So to me, I don't think that we're at the same risk of going totally into, Kool-Aid land. I feel like, we're the Saturn and the airiness of the Sun right now and the trine to Saturn should be able to keep us sort of grounded, discerning, capable of thinking through things if we encounter that Neptunian haze that can be a part of a Sun square to Neptune. That's not all there is to the Sun square Neptune, though. We're going to try to, vindicate Sun and Neptune from that unfortunate stereotype. Oh, you're just going to get lost, So Sun square Neptune, Thursday, June 16th. That is the transit date to consider. You got a few days to be noticing this energy intensifying. And there's 10 things that we are going to watch for, 10 archetypal themes that emerge through the combining or blending of the Sun with Neptune. First of all, this is an opening square. We had the conjunction to Neptune when the Sun was back in Pisces. So now we're hitting an opening square. An opening square from the Sun to Neptune can act as a kind of challenge to an original seeding idea, image, aspiration, hope, wish, longing, fantasy that we're now experiencing. So you think of the Sun's conjunction to Neptune a few months ago, this would have been when the Sun is in late Pisces. So you're talking about mid-March into late March, toward the turn into the spring equinox, so like roughly March 21st, is it 20th, something like that. So right around that time, the Sun would have gone through, a little earlier in March, would have gone through a conjunction to Neptune. That's like a seeding image, idea, aspiration, hope, desire, wish that's pouring through. We talked about it a few months ago. now we have the opening square, which means that you could see some need for modifying that image or aspiration or hope. Or even, if that's too hard to track, you can just think about it as challenges or important moments of reflection or contemplation or modification or revision of previously held images, ideals, hopes, wishes, fantasies, longings, etc. So that might be one way of looking at it. You could also think about the Sun and Neptune in terms of cognitive or intellectual distortion. It is true that the Sun in a Mercury ruled sign squaring Neptune could create an inability to think clearly or rationally, or maybe with a trine to Saturn, also the tendency to be deluded by your own rational conclusions, to get overly rational and then drink the Kool-Aid of your hyper rationality. Either way, I would be careful of the potential for your ideas or thoughts to become cloudy, distorted, amplified, exaggerated somehow. So that's something to watch for. Number 3, sometimes I have found in spiritual circles, not excluding some of the ones that I belong to, that there is an anti-intellectualism, as though the mind and the heart are different, and the mind is the enemy of the heart. And if the mind gets in the way, then it's bad, and so on and so forth. And it can get really old and sort of tiresome, and it can be a way for people who don't like to read or think, or who sometimes, being completely honest, maybe aren't even that smart, to try to degrade or demean people who are. So you have to be careful with the Sun square Neptune when the Sun is in a Mercury ruled air sign, for people to say, get out of your head. And it's like, maybe not. Like, maybe I should be thinking through this. If you're at a place and a salesperson is trying to sell you something and you're thinking about it, and they go, just get out of your head and just, do what your heart tells you. They might be actually telling you to leave reason behind, leave your budget behind, and just make an impulse purchase. So you have to be careful a little bit about almost like an anti-intellectual, anti-rational current. Just listen to your emotions, follow what they tell you to do, like that. Sometimes that could be helpful, like that. Maybe that's just the medicine you need under a Sun Neptune transit, or maybe there's some kind of anti-intellectual, anti-rational attempt to indoctrinate you or persuade you into doing something that requires that you check your better senses and rationality at the door. So you got to be really mindful about the potential for an anti-intellectualism or anti-rationality to creep in. But it could go the other way too. Just to be fair, deception or illusion. Sun in a Mercury ruled sign again, squared to Neptune, could result in trying to hide things. Maybe you have to hide. Maybe there's some things or thoughts or ideas that aren't safe around other people, so you have to, when in Rome, it for a day or two. But you could also border on trickery, deception, illusion, hiding things, secrecy, sort of malignant forms of gossip. So you want to be careful about that. But deception or illusion, definitely a possibility. Definitely a possibility. A real possibility. I guess that's a better way of putting it. Anyway, let's go to 5. A stream of universal light. Sun Neptune is like you wake up early in the morning, you sit down, you decide you're going to meditate, or maybe you're just going to sit on your porch and watch the birds. And all of a sudden you feel like, you're becoming one with all that is. It could last for 30 seconds, But Sun Neptune is that glorious feeling of the sunshine extending on and on to infinity. It's the streamed light of universal love and compassion. It's joy radiating across the surface of the infinite ocean. So you have that potential for like really big, beautiful, mystical transmissions or experiences of oneness or universal compassion. And it's like a golden ocean of divine love. So Sun Neptune. Number 6, leaders, men, fathers, CEOs, the solar figures dissolving or dying, passing over, passing on the mantle of authority or responsibility. I'm retiring, or I'm giving you the business, or or I've developed a degenerative disease. I know that sounds terrible, but Sun Neptune can represent the kind of the dissolution, the fading, the transitioning. It's like a sea change potentially around our ambitions or our ideals or our aspirations, but also could represent the literal sea change when it comes to leaders, or sometimes like men or fathers, solar figures again, or like people who have some kind of important status or position. I would not be surprised if certain kinds of deals or propositions or proposals changed somehow or possibly dissolved as well. The Sun, Neptune with Sun and Mercury, also Mercury sign, also representing something like the dissolution of a proposed thought or idea or agreement or contract. Number 7, heroism, martyrdom, sacrifice, maybe for the sake of a higher or noble ideal, maybe for the sake of one's ego. So that theme of like, I'm going to live forever through doing something noble or heroic. I'm going to make a sacrifice and give my life. I'm, the glamour of the hero, mythologically, archetypally, attraction to, romantic, heroic archetypes. That is definitely a Sun Neptune kind of experience, to be captured by the hero. Maybe it's something as cheesy as Die Hard and Bruce Willis. Maybe it's something as noble as Nelson Mandela. Whatever you see as like the ideal of a self-sacrificing hero, who's giving themselves for some higher cause or purpose or whatever. It can also be glamour and just being entrapped or enamored by the idea of fame. That's another possibility. Number 8 would be divine discontent. So here, I think the potential with the Sun representing ideals, aspirations, ambitions, kind of like an ideal image toward which we are aimed or something that we pursue. You see the Sun Neptune and you think of the disappointment, the failure, the inability to reach that divine ideal, and the kind of sense of longing for something that you can't have. That's Sun Neptune. It can also be about some kind of creative transmission, seeing through the veil. So getting in touch with another world, omens and dreams, signs in nature, astrology, anything that constitutes oracular, the Sun and Apollo, associated both with oracles, because when the oracle says something, it illuminates like the sun. So the Sun associated with truth and wisdom and moments of almost like samadhi or something, like a moment of like divine illumination. So seeing through the veil, having a mystical insight, a moment of psychic receptivity, stuff like that. But also being inspired by something sort of intangible, and the idea of like a creative transmission or outpouring, a fugue state. Number 10 would be intolerance toward difference or diversity. This is the weird one. As soon as I was starting to get involved in, I guess you could say, like New Age culture in general, for people that I wrote for, publications that I wrote for, scenes that I started hanging out in, and so forth, I realized that this whole trip about oneness, and I always joke around that, I would always notice it with people who felt like they were like invasive eye gazers. They would be like, come on, let's meld. And I'd always be like, I'm a Taurus rising and a Capricorn moon. You are dumb to me. And that's my own ignorance, right? But I would always be like, go away. Like, I don't want to meld with you. Maybe we could talk, but take me out to dinner before you try to take me to bed with your crazy eye gazing. What are you doing? It's like, and I would always be, that's just me. That's just me and my cynical personality at times. But, I remember in particular one time when I actually told someone, I'm a little uncomfortable with that. So, no thanks. I was just trying to set my boundary. Like, I just met you. Like, I don't want to eye gaze with you, and this person became very intolerant toward me. Actually, they started being very condescending and suggesting that I was not very spiritually evolved and so forth. And obviously, I'm not very spiritually evolved if I'm calling people dumb, and you know what I mean. Like, I own that part of me being like, okay, that's just that's my stupid pants. But honestly, when you set a boundary with someone and you're like, I'm not going to drink the oneness tea with you right now because it's making me feel a little bit uncomfortable, someone should just be like, oh, that's cool. So more broadly speaking, I feel like for a while I encountered, as I was just like getting, first of all, some of it was my own close-heartedness, and some of it was also like, oh, there's some real whack jobs in the new age world, right? And so you kind of, you're feeling it out. And I realized, oh, some people are really intolerant, and they don't want me to be an individual with boundaries. There's boundary issues in some of these groups and communities and stuff, and I get like really kind of perturbed by it. So interestingly, Neptune has often been associated with genocide, and you guys have probably heard me mention this before, where the desire is for one pure race and eliminate anything that's different. And the same can be true when we are all about oneness. It's like, well, what about individuality? Or what about unique diversity? Uniqueness and diversity. What about that? So you have to be careful with the Sun Neptune, because there's sometimes like this intolerance toward difference. And you wouldn't think of that with Sun Neptune, because you would think, well, Sun Neptune is all about, bringing things together in like a, a spirit of unity. And that's certainly the case for the Sun Neptune, but there's also this side to Sun Neptune that's like, are you going to join my oneness cult? I want everything to merge together and be part of the same thing without any diversity. And I might actually be intolerant or condescending or rude to anything that doesn't fit into my paradigm. For example, religious extremism can be very Neptunian insofar as it's like everything should look and feel the same to me. And I'm intolerant and hyper allergic to anything that looks different. So aside from me, sometimes my humor borders on being a little jerky, so I apologize. But that's my edge or whatever. I crack myself up at least. But so be careful of like the intolerance toward difference. Like everyone's different. Even for me, like I really like having a menagerie of like interesting personalities in my life, including like people that I might, jokingly call nut jobs. I'm like, yeah, I'd rather have a couple of really cool nut jobs in my life than have people that are all just like me, So I, and I'm really probably a nut job too, So this is something that I've learned through a couple of Neptune transits in my life, looking back at them, that Neptune will be all about where can I find that bond of similarity to assimilate and feel like I'm a part of something. And that could be socially, not just religiously. And then where do I have some kind of intolerance for those aspects of myself or others that are not part of some kind of, homogenous group or whatever. So it's just something to keep aware of. And to me, one of the more interesting nuanced points about the Sun and Neptune. So on that note, I hope that this has given you some good things to think about as the Sun closes in on a square to Neptune this week. I would love to hear your stories. Use the hashtag grabbed and tell us how the Sun and Neptune and their combination is showing up in your life this week. If you prefer not to share in the comment section, you can email us grabbed@nightlightastrology.com. Tell us your story. I'd love to, we're going to be doing some more storytelling in the weeks to come. So we will do probably an episode, later this month as we gather more momentum around some of the collecting the stories that you guys have been sharing. Don't forget, it's not too late to join the class. If you want to check out the class that started this weekend, it's nightlightastrology.com. Go to the first year course page. If you have any questions, email us info@nightlightastrology.com. And yeah, I look forward to unpacking things as the week goes on. I will be traveling this week, going on a yoga retreat later in the week where I will be eye gazing with people. No, I'm just kidding. And as the week goes on, I'm not sure if I'm going to be broadcasting, maybe from a hotel room on a laptop at some point. And it depends on if I'm able to get videos made in advance or not. But you know how it is when you're traveling and you got to pack everything up. And so I'm hoping I can get my reading or my content created in advance so that you still have high production value here. But I may be on a laptop in a hotel room later this week. We'll see. So, all right, that's what I've got. I hope you guys have a great day and are off to a great start with your week. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.